Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! It was a clandestine affair, conducted in the solitude of his apartment, where Frederick found himself grappling with a decision that could change everything. The LED lights of his monitor emitted a warm hue, accentuating the anticipation etched on his features as he pondered. His index finger, poised above the confirm icon, trembled ever so slightly, revealing the internal battle he was waging. The digital shopping cart was a testament to his secret. It held a vibrant, floral sundress that would dance around his ankles, and a luxurious black wig that would cascade down his back, transforming him entirely. With a resolute inhalation, he broke the tension and pressed down. The order, now irrevocable, triggered a rush of adrenaline and apprehension. As the confirmation notification flashed, marking the acceptance of his purchase, Frederick exhaled, his chest rising and falling in quick succession. He signed for it with trembling hands, grateful for the plain, unmarked box that gave no hint of its contents. Once inside, he carefully opened it, laying out the dress and wig on his bed. The dress was a vision of soft blue fabric adorned with delicate white daisies. Frederick ran his fingers over the material, marveling at its smoothness. The wig, a cascade of ebony waves, looked so real he could hardly believe it wasn't natural hair. Taking a deep breath, Frederick began to change. He slipped out of his usual attire, a plain button-up shirt and slacks, and into the dress. The fabric whispered against his skin as it settled into place. With careful movements, he positioned the wig on his head, adjusting it until it framed his face perfectly. Slowly, he turned to face the full-length mirror on his closet door. The person staring back at him was both familiar and foreign. The dress hugged his body in ways his usual clothes never did, accentuating curves he didn't know he had. The black hair of the wig softened his features, falling gracefully over his shoulders. For a moment, Frederick stood frozen, taking in every detail of his reflection. Then, almost unconsciously, he smiled. It wasn't his usual tight-lipped, polite smile, but a wide, genuine grin that lit up his entire face.
"Hello, Hadley,"
he whispered to his reflection, trying out the name he had chosen for this version of himself. As the weekend unfolded, Frederick, now Hadley, found herself exploring this new identity with growing confidence. She practiced walking in low heels, perfecting a gentle sway that felt natural and feminine. She experimented with makeup, watching online tutorials and gradually improving her technique. By Sunday evening, Hadley had developed a routine. She would wake up early, take extra care with her morning shower, and then spend time carefully applying makeup and styling her wig. The process was meditative, allowing her to shed the constraints of Frederick's life and step fully into Hadley's world. As she prepared for bed that night, reluctantly removing the wig and wiping away the last traces of makeup, Hadley felt a pang of sadness. The thought of returning to work as Frederick the next day felt constricting, like trying to fit into clothes that were too small. Monday morning arrived with its usual monotony. Frederick donned his typical work attire, a crisp white shirt and navy slacks, and headed to the library. As he unlocked the heavy oak doors and breathed in the familiar scent of books, he couldn't shake the feeling that something had fundamentally changed. Throughout the day, Frederick found himself standing a little straighter, smiling a little more freely. He greeted patrons with a warmth that surprised even himself. During his lunch break, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in the staff room mirror and noticed a spark in his eyes that hadn't been there before. You seem different today, Frederick, remarked his co-worker, Eleanor, as they reshelved books in the fiction section. Did something good happen over the weekend? Frederick paused, a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird in his hands.
I suppose you could say that,
he replied, a small smile playing on his lips.
I just did some self-reflection.
Eleanor nodded approvingly. Well, whatever it was, it suits you. You look happier. As the week progressed, Frederick found himself looking forward to the evenings when he could transform into Hadley. He began to incorporate small, subtle changes into his daily life. A touch of clear nail polish, a slightly more fitted shirt, a gentler way of speaking. By Friday, the urge to fully embrace Hadley was overwhelming. Frederick made a bold decision. He would spend the entire weekend as Hadley, not just within the confines of his apartment, but out in the world. Saturday morning dawned bright and clear. Hadley took extra care with her appearance, choosing a green wrap dress that complemented her figure and pairing it with comfortable sandals. She styled her black wig into loose waves and applied natural-looking makeup. Taking a deep breath, Hadley stepped out of her apartment building. The world seemed different from this perspective. Colors were brighter, scents more vivid. She walked to a nearby cafe, her steps growing more confident with each block. "Good morning," she said to the barista, her voice soft but clear. "I'd like a vanilla latte, please." The barista smiled warmly. "Coming right up, miss. Can I get a name for the order?" "Hadley," she replied, the name feeling right on her lips. As she waited for her drink, Hadley noticed an older woman struggling with a heavy bag of groceries. Without hesitation, she approached her. "Excuse me, ma'am. Would you like some help with that?" The woman looked up, relief washing over her face. "Oh, that would be wonderful, dear. Thank you." Hadley took the bag, its weight familiar from countless times carrying boxes of books at the library. They chatted as they walked, the woman introducing herself as Mrs. Thornberry.
"You're such a kind young lady,"
Mrs. Thornberry said as they reached her building.
"We need more people like you in this world."
Hadley felt a warmth spread through her chest at the words. She had always tried to be helpful as Frederick, but somehow, as Hadley, the act felt more natural, more authentic. Returning to the cafe, Hadley collected her latte and found a quiet corner to sit. As she sipped her drink, she observed the world around her. Families enjoying weekend brunch, friends catching up over coffee, couples lost in conversation. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged in this tapestry of life. The rest of the weekend passed in a blur of new experiences. Hadley visited a bookstore, losing herself in the aisles and engaging in a lively discussion about contemporary fiction with the shop owner. She had lunch at a small bistro, savoring flavors that seemed more intense than ever before. On Sunday afternoon, she ventured into a clothing store, drawn by a display of elegant dresses. As she browsed the racks, a sales associate approached her. "Can I help you find anything specific?" the young woman asked, with a friendly smile. Hadley hesitated for a moment before replying, "Actually, yes. I'm looking for something professional but feminine. I work in a library and I want to update my wardrobe a bit." The associate's eyes lit up. "Oh, I have just the thing. Follow me." For the next hour, Hadley tried on various outfits, each one making her feel more confident than the last. She settled on a few pieces: a pencil skirt in deep burgundy, a soft cream blouse with delicate lace detailing, and a tailored blazer in navy blue. As she made her purchases, Hadley realized that these weren't just clothes for a weekend persona. She was buying them for her everyday life, for the person she was becoming. Sunday evening arrived too quickly. As Hadley carefully removed her makeup and wig, she looked at herself in the mirror. The face staring back at her was Frederick's, but the eyes held Hadley's spark. "We're the same person," she whispered to her reflection. "And it's time to stop hiding." Monday morning, Frederick stood in front of his closet, staring at the row of button-up shirts and slacks. With a deep breath, he reached past them and pulled out the cream blouse and burgundy skirt. He styled his hair differently, softening his usual severe part, and applied a touch of subtle makeup. As she walked into the library that morning, she felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. Eleanor was the first to see her, eyes widening in surprise. "Frederick?" she asked tentatively. "Actually," came the reply, voice soft but steady. "I prefer Hadley now." Eleanor's face broke into a warm smile. "Well, Hadley, that color looks lovely on you. Would you like to help me with the new display?" And just like that, with a simple act of acceptance, Hadley felt the last of her fears melt away. Throughout the day, she explained her transition to her colleagues and regular patrons. While there were a few raised eyebrows and confused looks, the overwhelming response was one of support and respect. As the weeks passed, Hadley's confidence grew. She found joy in expressing herself authentically, both in her appearance and her interactions with others. Her work at the library took on new life as she initiated reading programs and community events, bringing a fresh energy to the once quiet space. One afternoon, as Hadley was organizing a cart of returns, she overheard a conversation between two teenage girls browsing nearby. "I wish I had her confidence," one whispered to the other, gesturing subtly towards Hadley. "Yeah, she always looks so put together and sure of herself," her friend replied. Hadley smiled to herself, touched by their words. If only they knew the journey she had taken to reach this point. As she continued her work, Hadley reflected on the changes in her life. She had always loved her job at the library, finding solace in the quiet stacks and the world of books. But now, as Hadley, she found herself becoming a more active part of that world. She engaged more with patrons, offering personalized recommendations and creating themed displays that captured readers' imaginations. Her newfound confidence extended beyond her professional life. Hadley began attending local community events, joining a book club, and even volunteering at an animal shelter on weekends. She formed new friendships and deepened existing ones, no longer held back by the fear of revealing her true self. One day, as Hadley was locking up the library, she noticed a young person lingering near the entrance, looking uncertain. "Can I help you?" Hadley asked gently, approaching them. The individual, who appeared to be in their early 20s, looked up with a mix of hope and apprehension. I was wondering if the library had any resources on gender identity." Hadley's heart warmed at the question. "Of course we do," she replied with a smile. "We have a whole section dedicated to LGBTQ+ literature and resources. The library is closed now, but I'd be happy to show you tomorrow if you'd like." Relief washed over the young person's face. "That would be amazing. Thank you so much." As they turned to leave, Hadley called out, "And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here. My name is Hadley, and I've been on a similar journey myself." The gratitude in the young person's eyes spoke volumes. Hadley watched them walk away, feeling a sense of purpose she had never experienced before. She realized that by embracing her true self, she had not only transformed her own life, but had also positioned herself to help others on their paths to self-discovery. Months passed, and Hadley's life settled into a new normal. Her wardrobe expanded, filled with clothes that made her feel confident and comfortable. She experimented with different hairstyles, eventually deciding to grow out her natural hair and embracing its soft waves. Her relationship with her family, which had been strained at first, gradually improved. Her parents, initially shocked by her transition, came to see how much happier and more fulfilled she was as Hadley. They made efforts to understand, asking questions and educating themselves about gender identity. One Sunday afternoon, Hadley invited her parents over for tea. As they sat in her living room, surrounded by bookshelves and potted plants, her mother reached out and took her hand. "Hadley," she said, her voice filled with emotion, "I want you to know how proud we are of you. It took courage to be true to yourself, and we can see how much you've blossomed." Hadley felt tears welling up in her eyes. "Thank you, Mom. That means more to me than you know." Her father, usually a man of few words, cleared his throat.
"We love you, kiddo. Always have, always will, no matter what name or pronouns you use."
The three of them shared a hug, years of tension melting away in that moment of acceptance and love. As summer turned to autumn, Hadley found herself reflecting on her journey. She sat in her favorite reading nook, a cup of herbal tea steaming beside her, and opened her journal. Writing had become a therapeutic outlet for her, a way to process her thoughts and emotions. "A year ago," she wrote, "I was living a half-life, afraid to show the world who I truly was. Now, I wake up each day feeling whole, feeling real. It hasn't always been easy, and there are still challenges, but I wouldn't trade this authenticity for anything." She paused, tapping her pen against her chin thoughtfully, before continuing. "I've learned that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about acknowledging your fears and moving forward anyway. It's about being true to yourself, even when it's difficult. And most importantly, it's about extending that courage to others, creating a space where everyone feels free to be themselves." Hadley closed her journal, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. She glanced at the clock and realized it was time to get ready for her evening plans. The local library association was holding a fundraiser, and she had volunteered to give a speech about the importance of diverse literature and inclusive spaces. As she stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the collar of her favorite navy blue dress, Hadley smiled at her reflection. The person looking back at her was confident, authentic, and ready to make a difference in the world. She picked up her notes for the speech and headed out, ready to share her story and inspire others. As she walked, the autumn leaves crunched beneath her feet, a symphony of change and renewal. Hadley took a deep breath of the cool air, feeling grateful for every step of her journey. The venue for the fundraiser was a charming old theater that had been converted into an event space. As Hadley entered, she was greeted by the warm smiles of her colleagues and community members. The air buzzed with excitement and conversation. Eleanor, who had become one of Hadley's closest friends, rushed over to greet her. "You look amazing, Hadley. Are you ready for your big speech?" Hadley nodded, feeling a mix of nervousness and anticipation. "As ready as I'll ever be. I just hope my words can make a difference." "They will," Eleanor assured her, giving her arm a supportive squeeze. "Your journey has already inspired so many of us. Now you get to share that inspiration with even more people." As the event began, Hadley found herself engaged in conversations with community leaders, educators, and fellow librarians. They discussed the importance of representation in literature, the role of libraries in fostering inclusivity, and the power of stories to change lives. Finally, it was time for Hadley's speech. As she took the stage, the room fell silent. She looked out at the sea of faces, some familiar, some new, and took a deep breath. "Good evening, everyone," she began, her voice clear and strong. "A year ago, I stood behind a library desk, hiding behind a name and an identity that didn't truly represent who I was. Today, I stand before you as Hadley, a woman who has learned the transformative power of authenticity and acceptance." As she spoke, Hadley shared her journey, weaving in the broader themes of inclusivity and the vital role that libraries play in providing safe spaces and resources for self-discovery. She emphasized the importance of diverse literature, not just for those on journeys of self-discovery, but for everyone seeking to understand and empathize with different experiences. In the pages of books, we find reflections of ourselves and windows into the lives of others, she said, her passion evident in every word. As librarians and community leaders, it's our responsibility to ensure that every person who walks through our doors sees themselves represented on our shelves and feels welcomed in our spaces. As Hadley concluded her speech, the room erupted in applause. She felt a wave of emotion wash over her, realizing the impact her words had made. People approached her throughout the rest of the evening, sharing their own stories or expressing gratitude
Thanks for
her
watching,
openness.
my girlies. Be sure
One
to check out
encounter
Patreon for
particularly
more.
touched Hadley.